Hello and a warm welcome to each one of you. I'm your storyteller, James, and I truly hope you're doing well today. May peace, love, and happiness fill your heart as you listen to this story. I pray that this journey through our story touches your soul and brings you a sense of connection and inspiration. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay with us as we unravel the story in its full depth. This is part one, and I promise it will speak to your heart. I'd love to know where you're listening from, so drop me a comment and let me know. Now, without further delay, let's dive right into the story. I can't wait to share this incredible adventure with you. Mega had always been the kind of woman who walked into a room and made it feel instantly warmer. With her radiant brown skin that shimmered like polished bronze under even the dimmest light, and her long flowing curls cascading past her shoulders like liquid silk, she carried herself with an effortless grace. She didn't know how stunning she was, but it wasn't just her beauty that caught people's attention. It was her heart, her kindness, her softness, her ability to make everyone around her feel seen and heard. Since she was a teenager, people whispered about how lucky the man would be who married her. When Harry came into her life, it felt like fate had finally delivered someone worthy of her gentle soul. Harry was charming, funny, and had a smile that could melt stone. And Mega, ever the romantic, fell for him the way a flower turns toward the sun. She gave herself to him completely, body and soul, trusting that true, selfless love would always be enough to build a forever. She woke up each day thinking of ways to make him smile, from freshly brewed coffee waiting on the kitchen counter to handwritten notes tucked in his briefcase. She poured her affection into every corner of their life together. Her devotion wasn't loud or flashy. It was in the small things, remembering his favorite dinner after a long day, massaging his temples when he had a headache, or simply sitting beside him in silence when words weren't needed. She knew his moods, his favorite songs, his silent worries, and his dreams. She built a home that was a sanctuary for both of them, filled with love, laughter, and memories crafted from 1,000 tender moments. She took pride in their marriage, often telling friends how lucky she felt to have found her soulmate. People admired them as the perfect couple, and Mega, in her heart, believed that what they had was real, deep, and lasting. She had no room for doubt, no space in her heart for suspicion or jealousy. When others raised eyebrows at how often Harry came home late or how frequently he checked his phone with a hidden smirk, Mega always brushed it off with a smile. Her faith in him was unwavering. She defended him not out of ignorance, but out of love so deep that it blinded her to cracks in the foundation. She believed that every marriage had its ups and downs, and any inconsistencies were just part of life. Her loyalty wasn't naivety, it was her choice to love fiercely, even when others might have hesitated. She trusted Harry because she believed in the goodness of people, and more than that, she believed in what they had built together. She imagined their future often, a house with a garden, children with his smile in her eyes, vacations by the beach, gray hair and wrinkled hands still clasped in love, decades from now. Mega dreamed in color when it came to their life, painting their tomorrows with hope and certainty. She was a woman of substance, educated, articulate, and kind. And she could have had any man, but she chose Harry. Not just once, but every day, with every breath, with every beat of her heart. And in return, she gave him a version of love that many never even dream of experiencing. Friends admired her loyalty, though some pitied her innocence. Her parents adored her and prayed she would always be cherished while quietly worrying when she brushed off their concerns. But Mega, in her unwavering belief in love, remained steadfast. Her love for Harry was the axis on which her world spun. She wasn't just a wife, she was a partner, a best friend, a confidant, and a safe haven. She loved deeply, loved well, and asked for nothing in return but honesty and commitment. And so she continued to pour herself into the relationship, unaware that the love she was so generously giving was not being returned in equal measure. Every dinner she prepared, every kiss she placed on his cheek, every moment she thought they were building a future, she was investing in a man who, behind her back, was slowly unraveling the very foundation of their union. Still she smiled, hopeful and radiant, the perfect wife in a world that didn't always reward perfection. Her heart beat for him, her world revolved around him, and she believed with every fiber of her being that love like hers could conquer anything. But the winds of change were beginning to stir, silent but strong, and the woman who had given everything was about to face the cruelest kind of betrayal, the kind that doesn't just break hearts but shatters the soul. Yet even in the shadow of what was to come, Mega's spirit remained unbroken. She wasn't just beautiful, she was resilient, a storm wrapped in silk. And though she didn't know it yet, she was destined for a kind of love that would make the pain worthwhile. Her story was only just beginning. People talk sometimes out of concern, sometimes out of jealousy, and sometimes simply because they have nothing better to do. But when the whispers began about Harry's unusual behavior, Mega didn't give them much weight in her heart. The foundation of her marriage was built on love and trust, a fortress she believed was unshakable. The first time someone casually mentioned that Harry was spotted having dinner with another woman downtown, she laughed it off, chalking it up to mistaken identity or a business meeting misconstrued by nosy onlookers. Mega was not the type to jump to conclusions. She had never been possessive or insecure. Her love had never relied on control or suspicion. She believed that trust was the lifeblood of any relationship, and she gave hers freely, especially to the man she had chosen to spend her life with. So when her colleague Priya hesitated in the middle of a coffee break and said gently, "Mega, I'm only telling you this because I care. I saw Harry last night, and he wasn't alone." Mega forced a smile, her heart dipping for just a second before recovering. She nodded at Priya for her concern and brushed it off internally as one of those moments that meant nothing. But the whispers didn't stop. They grew louder, like a breeze gaining strength before a storm. At the salon, a friend of a friend hinted at seeing Harry laughing too intimately with a blonde woman in a short dress. At a grocery store, an old schoolmate awkwardly tried to change the topic after asking how her husband's new assistant was fitting into their life. Online, Mega saw vague social media posts from acquaintances that made her heart twinge with unease. Photos from places she and Harry had never been. Check-ins that didn't include her. Little fragments of a life being lived in secret. Yet she pushed it all down. She told herself people made mistakes, saw things wrong, or maybe just wanted to stir drama where none existed. Her heart, so full of love, couldn't accept the idea that the man she adored might be living a lie. She had shared too much, given too much, loved too deeply. To accept even a sliver of doubt would be to question everything she believed in. Mega would lie in bed beside Harry at night, listening to the rhythmic tapping of his fingers on his phone, telling herself he was answering work emails or chatting with friends, not sharing midnight secrets with someone else. She saw the way he avoided eye contact when asked about his day, and convinced herself he was just tired. She noticed how he smelled faintly of unfamiliar perfume on certain nights, and blamed it on office hugs or celebratory toasts. She told herself stories to cover up the growing silence, painting over the cracks with hope, smiling through the ache in her chest. Friends grew quieter, unsure of how to help someone who refused to see what was becoming obvious. Her mother gently asked once, "Beta, are you happy, truly happy?" And Mega answered with a nod, too proud or perhaps too scared to say anything else. She began to question herself instead, wondering if she was being too paranoid, too emotional, too sensitive. She dug through his laundry looking for signs, only to scold herself for stooping so low. She replayed his words in her mind, looking for double meanings or gaps in truth, but always ended up reassuring herself that love demanded trust. She became a master at pretending everything was fine, wearing smiles like armor, carrying on with daily routines as if nothing had changed, because the alternative, confronting the truth, was far too painful to consider. Her dreams of a happy future were too precious to be shattered by shadows and whispers. Even when she saw Harry cancel date nights at the last minute, claiming urgent meetings that left him returning home past midnight with a loose tie and tired eyes, she convinced herself that this was just what marriage looked like, that sometimes people grew busy, sometimes the romance faded, and maybe she just needed to be more patient, more understanding. And so she doubled down, cooked more of his favorite meals, tried new hairstyles he once complimented, left little notes on his mirror and whispered, "I love you," even when he was half asleep and unresponsive. She clung to hope like a lifeline, because the alternative would mean her whole world was a lie. She didn't want to be the woman scorned, the wife abandoned, the name people mentioned in hushed tones of pity. She wanted to be the success story, the proof that love could weather storms. But even the strongest hearts can't beat forever under the weight of betrayal. And Mega, despite all her strength, was beginning to feel the strain. Still, she smiled in public, laughed at dinner parties, and carried herself with grace. She didn't confront Harry, not yet. She didn't want to be the one to accuse without proof, to damage what little warmth was left between them. But in quiet moments, when no one was looking, her eyes betrayed the storm within her. Laughter was slower to come. Her energy dimmed, and her smile wavered at the corners. She began to withdraw from some friends, embarrassed by the possibility that everyone else saw what she couldn't. Her world was shrinking, caving in slowly around her. But she held on, because she was Mega, the perfect wife, the loving partner, the woman who believed in loyalty above all else. And until the truth was undeniable, until it stared her in the face with cruel clarity, she would continue to believe. Because that's what her heart had been trained to do: love, forgive, and hope. Mega, ever the loving and devoted wife, held on to the fragments of their marriage with trembling hands, determined to breathe life back into the relationship that once made her heart sing with joy and warmth. As Harry's birthday approached, she resolved to pour her soul into a surprise that would not only express her enduring love, but also remind him of the beautiful bond they once shared. She refused to let the growing distance between them overshadow what she believed was still worth saving. If there was a flicker of hope left, she would nurture it into a flame. With unwavering determination and her heart full of dreams, Mega began to secretly plan a glamorous birthday bash, fit for a man she still considered the center of her universe. She wanted everything to be perfect, every detail reflecting her deep affection for Harry. "Can't believe you still don't get it, can you?" Jennifer's voice was dripping with condescension. "Harry's not yours anymore. He's mine." Mega's heart shattered all over again, the final dagger slicing through the remnants of her hopes and dreams. She held her ground, forcing her body to stand tall despite the tremble threatening to betray her composure. Her voice, when it came, was a soft whisper, but it carried the weight of everything she'd kept buried for so long. "You're right, Jennifer," Mega said, her words like shards of glass, sharp and deliberate. "He's not mine anymore. But that doesn't change the fact that this was never supposed to be your victory. It was supposed to be mine." Harry's eyes darted between the two women, guilt flashing across his features for the first time since the night had started. He stepped toward Mega, but she held up a hand, stopping him before he could come any closer. "Don't," she said, her voice a mixture of exhaustion and finality. "I've given you everything, Harry. I've loved you, fought for you, trusted you. But you've taken that and thrown it away for what? For someone who barely knows you? For someone who will never care for you the way I did?" Jennifer let out a small mocking laugh. "Oh, please, Mega. You're still living in the past. Harry and I—" "Don't speak for him," Mega interrupted, her eyes hardening. "He's not a child who needs you to fight his battles for him. He can speak for himself if he chooses to. But I don't think he's going to. Not this time." Harry stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing, unable to form a single word. Mega's gaze never wavered from his, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and quiet rage. "I didn't plan for this, Harry," she said, her voice now steady and composed. "This night, this party, this celebration, I did it all for you. But now it's about me. I've fought so hard to hold on to a version of you that never existed. The truth is, you've already left me long before tonight, and I can't keep pretending that I don't see it." With that, Mega turned and walked toward the door, the sound of her heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown to the end of something once beautiful. She didn't look back. She couldn't. The night that had started with so much promise, with dreams of reconnection and renewal, had become a turning point. Not the one she had hoped for, but one that would lead her to a future where she could finally be free from the chains of a love that had grown cold. As she stepped outside into the cool night air, she took a deep breath. feeling the weight of the past few hours lift from her shoulders, if only just slightly. The pain was still there, still fresh and raw. But something had shifted inside her, a sense of clarity, of purpose. She didn't need Harry, not anymore. She was ready to move forward, to find herself again. And in time she would heal. She had to, because she was no longer just a wife who had waited. She was a woman who was choosing herself, defined by betrayal. She took a deep breath, wiping away the last of her tears, her eyes burning with the fire of self-preservation. Every inch of her body was screaming to leave, to break free of the toxic hold Harry and Jennifer had on her life. But even as she prepared to turn and walk away, a sudden thought pierced through the haze of pain. What now? The question echoed in her mind, threatening to unravel her resolve. She had spent so long building a life with Harry, giving everything she had, convinced that love would conquer all. Yet here she stood, on the precipice of something new, something unknown. Was she ready for this? Could she really walk away and rebuild herself from the ashes of this crumbling marriage? The room around her seemed to blur as the weight of the decision pressed down on her chest. It was terrifying, yes, but there was a sense of relief, too. A tiny flicker of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, there was something better waiting for her beyond the shattered pieces of her past. "I want a divorce," she repeated, her voice steady now, no trace of doubt lingering. The words felt powerful, final, and as they left her lips, she felt a shift deep inside. It was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. She was reclaiming herself, no longer defined by the lies or the deceit that had marred her life. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was oppressive, almost suffocating, as if the very air in the room was holding its breath. Jennifer's smug smile faltered, the victorious gleam in her eyes dimming slightly as she realized the impact of Mega's words. Harry, on the other hand, stood there, frozen, as though his world had collapsed in a single instant. But Mega didn't wait for him to respond. She didn't care what he had to say anymore. He had lost his chance, and now it was her turn to take control of her life. With her head held high, she turned on her heel and walked out of the room, leaving the life she had known, and the man who had betrayed her, behind. As the door clicked shut behind her, the sound seemed to reverberate in the stillness, sealing her decision, her future. She didn't look back, and for the first time in a long time, Mega felt the first stirrings of something new. Freedom. It sounds like you're working through a powerful emotional scene for Mega, filled with pain, strength, and an overwhelming sense of finality. There's such an incredible depth in the contrast between her shattered dreams and the new resolve she begins to form. You've captured her emotional turmoil, the betrayal she feels, and the difficult choice she makes with precision. The weight of her decision to leave is felt in every sentence, from the heartbreak of realizing the lies to her determination to reclaim her life and future. If you're aiming to continue or develop this further, you could explore her inner strength growing as she navigates this painful turning point. Maybe a subtle contrast between her past and present life could emerge as she moves forward, finding solace in unexpected places or moments of personal reflection that allow her to heal. Would you like help developing the next part, perhaps focusing on Mega's journey towards rebuilding herself after the heartbreak, than just the typical career goals? Your sense of responsibility, your dedication to your child, that's something that resonates with me. Mega looked up, surprised by the understanding in his voice. It wasn't just the standard corporate rhetoric she had grown used to hearing in interviews, but something deeper, more genuine. She nodded slowly, unsure of what to say next, but feeling a strange sense of connection in his words. "I know the road you're on isn't easy," James continued, his gaze softening slightly. "But it's clear that you have the resilience to make it work. And that kind of tenacity is what we value here at Kingston Enterprises." Mega felt a flicker of hope in her chest. She had come to the interview with the intention of proving her worth. But now it seemed like James saw her for who she truly was, beyond the resume and the qualifications. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt like someone believed in her. "I think we could work well together," he said, his voice steady but warm. I'll be honest, there are challenges ahead, but if you're willing to commit, I believe we can offer you the support and opportunity you're looking for. And it sounds like you're exactly the kind of person who will rise to those challenges." The words hung in the air between them, and Mega couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. She had come to this interview with doubts, with fears, but now she was walking away with something far more valuable: the belief that she could not only survive, but thrive. As she left the building later that day, the weight of the pregnancy still pressing gently against her, Mega couldn't help but smile. This was only the beginning, but it was a step forward, a step towards a future she was creating on her own terms. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she had control over her destiny. Whatever the future held, she was ready to face it. And with her baby by her side, she would build a life filled with strength, love, and hope. Rather than the usual ambitions, Mega's deeper sense of purpose brought a wave of relief over her. His words, though simple, felt validating, like he truly understood the gravity of her situation. This wasn't just about securing a job, it was about finding a way to build a life. As the interview progressed, Mega's nerves began to settle. She answered each question with clarity and conviction, her confidence growing as the conversation shifted to practical matters: her work schedule, potential contributions to the company, and ways she could help them grow. By the end of the interview, Mega felt a sense of pride. Despite her initial anxiety and uncertainty, she had shown up and faced the challenge with strength. She had given it her all. When James stood to shake her hand once more, there was a brief, unspoken connection between them, an acknowledgement that this was more than just a job interview. It was a step towards something greater, something transformative. "Thank you for your time, Mega," he said with a sincere smile. "We'll be in touch soon." Mega smiled back, her heart still racing but now filled with hope. She had walked in unsure, but she was leaving with a sense of possibility. Whether or not she got the job, she knew she had proven something to herself. She was capable of facing the unknown and emerging stronger. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it felt within her grasp. James Kingston, the CEO of Kingston Enterprises, was no stranger to confident, poised candidates. As a powerful figure in the business world, he had developed an uncanny ability to read people. Yet when Mega entered his office for her interview, something shifted inside him. He couldn't put his finger on it, but the moment she stepped into the room, he felt it: an undeniable energy, an aura that was both captivating and mysterious. She wasn't the typical candidate he encountered, yet there was a quiet strength in her that intrigued him. It wasn't just her beauty, though Mega's appearance certainly didn't go unnoticed. Her smooth brown skin glowed with a natural radiance, and her long curly hair framed her face effortlessly yet elegantly. Her warm, inviting eyes spoke volumes, and her presence lit up the room, exuding serenity mixed with an unspoken power. But it was more than her outward appearance. It was the way she carried herself, the subtle confidence in her demeanor, the sincerity with which she spoke, and the passion that sparked in her eyes as she discussed her future and her life. James sensed a depth beneath her calm exterior. She wasn't just someone seeking a job. She was a woman who had faced significant challenges and still stood tall. He was drawn to her not only as a potential employee, but as a person. There was something about Mega that made him want to know more about her, to understand the story behind the quiet determination in her voice. As the interview progressed, James found himself listening more intently than usual. Her words resonated with him on a deeper level, and the small, subtle details she shared made her stand out. Her gestures when she spoke about her baby, the way she articulated her values, and the depth in her gaze when she spoke of building a future for her child. All these things captivated him. When James asked her what drove her, her answers stuck with him long after she left his office. She spoke with such conviction, not just about the future she wanted for herself, but about the life she envisioned for her baby. Her words echoed in his mind, and the image of her, strong, vulnerable, and purposeful, lingered in his thoughts. There was something about Mega that made James want to protect her, to ensure she had everything she needed to succeed. It surprised him. He was a man who prided himself on maintaining a professional distance. But with Mega, things were different. Her quiet resilience, her vulnerability, and the hope she carried despite the hardships she had faced made him want to help her succeed. After the interview, Mega was all he could think about. He found himself thinking about her more than he had expected. He had met hundreds of candidates before, but none had left such an impression. He couldn't quite pinpoint why, but he knew he wanted to offer her the job, not just because of her qualifications, but because of the way she made him feel. James began observing her from a distance, watching how she interacted with her colleagues and how she approached her work. He admired the balance she struck between her responsibilities at Kingston Enterprises and her personal life. He knew she had recently gone through a difficult divorce and was raising a child on her own. Yet she still showed up every day with quiet determination, a sense of purpose and grace. Her dignity and resilience were impossible to ignore, and James couldn't help but be impressed by her ability to handle pressure with such poise. As the weeks passed, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her than met the eye. Mega's work ethic was impeccable, but it was the personal qualities that intrigued him. Her integrity, the warmth she radiated, and the vulnerability she carried so gracefully. The more James observed her, the more he realized that there was something about her that went beyond professionalism. He had been with many women, but none had captured his attention in the same way. There was a magnetic pull, a connection he couldn't ignore, and he found himself wanting to get closer to her, to understand her on a deeper level. He wasn't sure where it would lead, but he knew one thing for certain: Mega had changed something inside him. She had gotten under his skin in a way no one had in a long time. He had always been in control of his emotions, but with her, that control seemed to slip away. James sat in his office one day, reviewing the final details of the candidates for the role at Kingston Enterprises. His mind kept drifting back to Mega. She had impressed him with her qualifications, of course, but it was the intangible qualities that had really set her apart. Her authenticity, vulnerability, and quiet determination had made her stand out in a way that no other candidate had. Without hesitation, James picked up the phone and dialed her number. When Mega answered, he felt a surge of emotion that he hadn't expected. "Hello, Mega," he said, his voice steady but with a warmth he hadn't anticipated. "This is James Kingston, CEO of Kingston Enterprises. I wanted to personally thank you for interviewing with us today. After careful consideration, I'm pleased to inform you that we'd like to offer you the position." There was a brief silence, and James could almost hear Mega processing the news. Her voice, when it came through, was soft but filled with disbelief and gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Kingston," she said. I don't know what to say. I'm honored." James smiled to himself, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. He knew he had made the right decision, but hearing her gratitude made it feel more real, more personal. "You've earned this, Mega," he replied. "Your skills and background speak for themselves. We're excited to have you on board." As they ended the call, James leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. He had made the right decision, but there was something more at play here. A curiosity about Mega, a desire to know her better, to help her succeed not just in her career, but in her personal life as well. He couldn't deny it. Mega had gotten under his skin, and the connection he felt was undeniable. The days ahead would be filled with professional challenges, but there was something more waiting between them, something neither of them could yet fully understand. When Mega arrived for her first day, James couldn't help but watch her closely. There was something about the way she moved, the way she interacted with others that made him see her in a new light. It was subtle, but it was there. An undeniable tenderness that made him want to protect her, to support her, and to understand the woman behind the confident professional. Their journey together was just beginning, and neither of them could have predicted the twists and turns that awaited. But one thing was certain: their connection was real, and it would change both of their lives forever.